Hello and welcome back to the MLB DFS Slate breakdown for June 28th. We are back. We got a nice 13 gamer today after a big 15 gamer yesterday. Before we fully get into it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to all of our videos as it helps us out a ton to keep giving away content for free. Also, come join us at LineStar. Only $29.99 gets you all of your DFS, all of your props for all the sports we cover. It's the best deal in the industry. We also do now have a 3-day free trial in the Apple or iTunes app stores. If you go there, get the app, and you can get the 3-day trial. That 3-day trial also gives you access to the website. You just have to get that through the apps. Now, let's get into it. So what we're going to go over today is we're going to do a quick rundown of yesterday's slate, the perfect lineups, the winning lineups, and then we're also going to then go into the pitchers ownership, and the stacks for the day. All right, yesterday's perfect lineup, we got Gausman and Suarez coming in for the pitchers, two-man Pirate stack, which... the news happened yesterday, or it came out yesterday right after I got done recording that Darvish had an illness and was going to be skipped. I did write on the LineStar account that I really liked the Pirate stack once that news happened. And basically, the whole reason is the Padres bullpen is terrible, and having a bullpen game just doesn't bode well for the Padres. And it definitely helps the Pirates, which it did. Outside of that, there's no real stacks in the rest of that, which tends to happen on 15-game slates. Now, let's get into the winning lineup. So congrats to Brick75. Brian Hooper took it, and he had Peterson, who was a tough pitcher we talked about yesterday with good K upside for his price, and Kevin Gausman, who just absolutely crushed yesterday with 12 Ks. Then he has a 5-man Washington stack, 2-man Mets, and Acuna, who hit 2 home runs. So nice one for Brick, and once again, I think that's the third day in a row that it is a 5-2-1 that... won the slate. Also, if you look, his ownership on this lineup was incredibly low. So Washington coming through was huge for him. And then 5% on one of the best players in baseball. Putting up a huge day definitely does not hurt. So now we will go over to the FanDuel one. Check that lineup real quick. And since there's a game already going on, we got to go to yesterday's. All right, so Ranger Suarez comes in the perfect lineup, and outside of that, it is a total just mismatch, all one-offs for the lineup. Incredibly hard to recreate. Almost, barely took any salary compared to what you are allowed. And these are the lineups that are just almost impossible to create. So let's check and see what the winning was. So Shohei was the winning pitcher. We had a 2-man Dodgers, 2-man Mets, 2-man Miami, a 3-man Miami stack, and then a one-off of Luis Garcia for the Nationals. So, there's definitely some correlation. They just went smaller stacks versus, one bigger one. But look, Miami went nuts, so that 3-man stack absolutely paid off, especially at low ownership. And once again, there's a lineup that the ownership is pretty low. Got in some JD Martinez, and Max Muncy was called up and started yesterday off the IL, so I'm surprised that Muncy was only 13%. I did jam him in personally when I saw that he was definitely starting, and I'm assuming most of the sharper players probably got a lot of Muncy in lineups where they had other Dodgers. So solid lineup for Draft Hacker there. Congrats on winning the 25K. And now let's get into today's tournament. So 13 gamer. Still is a Colorado slate. So all, ownership's going to be heavy there. But there's a lot of different spots that kind of look interesting on that. And we will get into that now. We'll move me out of the way. Get into some pitcher ownership here. So leading the way, Blake Snell, 42%, 10.3K, and I am not surprised whatsoever. He has just absolutely been crushing it lately. It's 3 straight starts with 10 plus Ks, 8 Ks in the game before that, 7 before that. He has just been on fire. 1.35 FIP over his last 5 with a 44% K rate. Now that K rate's absolutely unsustainable, but this is a guy that when he's on, he is really on and is one of the best pitchers in the league. However, he is just very inconsistent, but he's got it together right now. He's mowing people down. He does have a 30% K rate over his last 20, so there is major K upside here regardless, and Pittsburgh strikes out a lot versus lefties. And then WOBA and ISO numbers for Pitt are decent. Pitt has been slumping a little bit. Yesterday, they may have came out of it, but that could have also just been the poor Padres bullpen. Combined K rate of 33%. Pretty much everything here points to you should probably play Blake Snell. The one thing I would have to say about that is this dude is inconsistent. He's, done it for years where he goes on runs where he crushes it, then gets crushed. Crushes it, gets crushed. So that's the one thing I would say. Don't be too high on him. Like, you have to play him. So much of the ownership is going to go to him just because the slate is really lacking some quality spots. So he is inconsistent. He could have a down game, but he has been on fire lately. Kodai Senga is the next. Senga is another guy that's been way better at home. All of his ceiling games have come at home outside of one game versus Pitt, which was solid, 28 points, and then versus Miami, the first start of his career, 26 points there. So Senega's in a decent spot versus the Brewers. They're striking out 24% versus righties. Senega definitely has seemed to figure it out a little bit. He had a little bit of a rocky start, but right now 3.79 FIP over his last 5, 27% K rate. The K rate this year is at 28%, so he does have some K upside. Milwaukee strikes out a decent amount, 26.8% combined K rate. He's in a decent spot. The one reason that you could consider fading him is this is another pitcher that's kind of been a little inconsistent, but he's also allowing a lot of hard contact and a lot of fly balls. It is somewhat warm in New York today, so that ball could carry a little bit more, making it a little easier to allow some home runs, but it is a very pitcher-friendly park as a whole. Now, I don't mind Senega. Don't love his ownership, but as we're going to see going through this, there is not a lot of pitching to like today. So next we got Aaron Nola. So Nola's obviously in a good spot here, 10.4K. Cubs strike out 22%. Nola has been very, very good versus the Cubs, but I do need to bring in the fact that Nola is averaging 42% less fantasy points win away. So that doesn't bode very well. But I do have to say that his away games so far this year, at Texas, at Yankees when they still had Judge, at Cincinnati, at Houston, at Dodgers, at Colorado, at the Braves, at the Mets, at the Diamondbacks. So mainly hitter-friendly parks with decent offenses. So, maybe that 42% is a little overblown. But it is Nola. He is one of the better pitchers of the game. He's been pitching well lately, 3.48 FIP, 30% K rate over his last 5. He went through a period where he struggled to begin in the year and end the year last year where that K rate came down over his last 20. K rate's only at 24% and a FIP of 4. So he has been much better lately, and it seems to be like he's a little bit more back into his form. Combined K rate, almost 27%. It's 26.7. So I don't mind Nola whatsoever, especially at slightly lower owned than, say, Senega. Dane Dunning's coming in next, 21% owned. Look, it's Detroit versus righties, 26% K rate, so you have to like that. Dunning has done well versus Detroit in the past, and he's in a decent spot here. The one big time issue with Dunning is just the lack of K upside. 16% K rate over his last 20, 12% over his last 5. So combined K rate of 19.5. He's in a good spot. He is super cheap. That K rate just may not be there. And, he doesn't give many ceiling type games. But hey, he can. He's done it before where he's able to go 6-7 innings and put up, 6-7 Ks. So maybe he does that today, but, who knows? I don't love the ownership going there. If ownership wasn't going there, I would like it a lot more. Domingo Germán, 8K. Germán has just been awful lately. 2 straight starts of just getting shelled. Gave up 8 earned runs versus the Mariners. Gave up 7 earned runs versus Boston. Before that, he was okay, but still 7.46 FIP over the last 5, 5.2 over the last 20, and not a very high combined K rate. I just can't see going to Germán right now, even in a really good matchup versus Oakland when he's priced at 8K. I don't love it. Look, it's Oakland, so he could absolutely crush them, but he also isn't as good away, averaging 30 less fantasy points or 30 less percent fantasy points away. So I don't love Germán, but look, we got to take some guys on this slate, and there's not too many to choose from here. JP Sears has been pitching really well lately. Has some strikeout upside. That FIP is a little scary, but he's been limiting runs with a lower ERA. And he's kind of done this in his career where his ERA is lower than a FIP and, by a decent margin. And that's once again happening here, which some pitchers are able to kind of get away with it. So far, he has. Now, he has a little bit of a K upside here over the last 5 starts, 24% K rate. We know the Yankees strike out at almost 24%, 22.7% combined K rate for him. So I think he's kind of interesting. He does allow a lot of fly balls, though, but it is in pitcher-friendly Oakland. I would not mind pivoting off Dunning to go to Sears whatsoever. And this Yankees offense just hasn't been good without Judge. Lucas Giolito, he's in a decent spot, has some nice K upside. The Angels are good versus righties, but they also strike out a lot. So if he can get around Shohei Ohtani, maybe we're able to get some nice little upside here. The one thing is he's not quite as good away as he is at home. But once again, he's a decent pitcher, and we're struggling to find decent spots. Drew Smyly versus the Phillies. Phillies strike out a ton versus lefties, 27% K rate. Smyly has a 20% K rate over the last 20. The combined K rate, once again, kind of low, 19.5%, but Smyly at least is a lot better at home. So I think this is an interesting spot for Smyly. It's another one where you could pay down for. Another thing that we have to bring up, though, because very easily Smyly could get shelled here. 75 plate attempts. Phillies are hitting 319 off him. 3 home runs. High ISO. Also, the StatCast data for him lately isn't great. 42% fly balls. 36% hard contact. It's in Wrigley. The wind is slightly coming in today, but it is a warmer day, so that ball may carry a little bit more. So I think this spot is one where the Phillies could get to Smyly early and absolutely crush this slate. Or Smyly could, keep them at bay a little bit and be a decent value option. But I don't hate going to Smiley. With this slate, I kind of got to bring up Logan Allen. 3.7 FIP since he's been up in the big leagues, 22% K rate. Solid combined K rate today of almost 26% at 8K. The one big thing we need to bring up here is it is in Kauffman Stadium, and it is almost 100 degrees there today. Thus, the 9.5 game total. So, it is hot, but it is a decent matchup for Allen, and he's a decent pitcher. He's a big-time prospect. I don't hate it, and we have seen him have a big-time ceiling game with 10 Ks versus Baltimore. So, he has it in him. I don't think we've still seen like the best Logan Allen yet. So, Christian Javier is... Normally, I would be like, oh, well, this is definitely our pivot that we have to go to. But this guy has been so bad lately. I just don't know what's going on with him. A K rate of 12% over his last 5 starts. Now, this is a guy last year that was a 10K pitcher, and you wouldn't blink, and you'd absolutely take him because he had a huge K rate. I don't know what's going on with him. Something is up, but he has been off. He is at least averaging more points when he is away. This game is away, and the Cardinals team isn't that great. So I could see you going there. Look, he's a 3.3 FIP over his last 20 with a 25.8% K rate. There is upside here if he's able to shake off whatever he's been going through. He got shelled against Cleveland, didn't do much against Washington, just no K upside versus Washington. Went into the Mets and just had no control whatsoever. 2.1 innings, 5 walks, 4 earned runs, 1K. Something is off with him. With that being said, he's a pitcher that we know has been good now for, a year and a half or so. I expect him to come around. No ownership is here, and no ownership is probably going to continue to go here just because how bad he's been in his recent form. So, game theory-wise, I can understand taking some shots here, especially with pitching just being pretty bad today. Logan Webb, there's no K upside here, or not much K upside here, 21% combined K rate. He's just expensive for that K rate versus good offense, so not many are going there, but I totally understand it if you don't want to go there. All right, now Braxton Garrett. He has been crushing it lately. 1.48 FIP, 40% K rate. So these are similar to Snell numbers, but way cheaper. He is versus, good offense versus lefties in the Sox, who 3.26 WOBA, 163 ISO to lefties. They do strike out a decent amount, though. So I could absolutely see you going to Braxton Garrett here, especially at low owned with a combined K rate of 30%. He would probably be my favorite low owned kind of pivot. So, all right, now let's get into FanDuel. Weird pitching slate. So we took a little more time there to go over it because of it. FanDuel, Aaron Nola coming in at 35%. Snell, huge price jump, 11.1K, 14% owned. That ownership and how he's pitching, I think you got to be kind of interested there. Got to be interested in Nola too, especially in this slate. Javier getting a little bit, Logan Webb getting a little bit, and Braxton Garrett pretty much getting no ownership on both sides. So I think that's interesting that nobody's going there when he's been so good as of late. Now let's get into some stacks. And we will try and wrap it up quick here. All right. And we got our stacks. Okay, highest owned, no surprise. We got the Dodgers here. And ownership drops off big time once you get off the Dodgers. Then it goes to Miami and Cleveland. As we said, this Cleveland game, super warm temperatures. Austin Cox is starting for KC, who he's been a reliever so far in the major league, but he did start in the minors. He showed a pretty solid K rate. I just don't think he's going to work too deep into the game. But KC's had a very good bullpen this year, so it's not like a total pick on them spot. Miami's in Boston, and it looks like it's probably going to be a relief game there. So I think you gotta consider Miami a little bit. Their bats were hot yesterday. It made me eat my words when I said they don't really score 8+ runs and they go up and put 10. Colorado. I like Colorado a lot. It looks like Michael Grove is probably going to be either the starter or long reliever, but so it's pretty much a bullpen game here, and this Dodger bullpen has not been good. So I think Colorado at low ownership with, warm temps in Colorado and that elevation is very interesting. KC, super warm. Logan Allen, we've seen him both get shelled and have good games, so we don't really know what we get there. Yankees, this offense is just sputtering, but they are cheap, so you can pay up for some pitching there. White Sox, Barea has been really good. Struggled a little bit lately with a 4.69 FIP over his last 5, but he's, overall a solid pitcher. Houston, I think, is interesting. Mikolas can absolutely get shelled. He's most of the time a solid starter, but he can get shelled. Tampa Bay is one I think is going way under owned. I just have no trust in the ghoster Zach Davies. He's been decent lately, 3.3 FIP, but over his last 20, 5.16 FIP. I just can't trust that, so I do like the Rays. Obviously, like Baltimore, one of the best offenses, so you got to consider that as well. We also got Cincinnati here. They are coming in as our highest projected, right there with the Dodgers. Now, Cincinnati, let's see, they're going against Kyle Gibson and Baltimore. The game is in Baltimore, which is a little bit of a bummer for me, just because since they've pushed those fences back, it's not quite as hitter friendly. But look, Cincinnati has some offense and they can absolutely do some work. Kyle Gibson can get shelled and can give up some home runs, even though he's been good so far. So I don't mind it. Dodgers are obviously in a good spot. Diamondbacks are popping up, even versus Eflin. So Eflin hasn't worked super deep into games, but he has been really good to limit runs. But this Diamondback offense just keeps getting guys going and scoring some runs. So I don't think you can discredit that. Tampa Bay is popping up. We know we like that one. Padres versus Keller. Keller has been good, but the wheels have fallen off a little bit lately. So Padres might be an interesting stack at some low ownership as well. And Colorado, obviously, as we talked about them too. Now let's look at the value stacks. Oakland versus Herman. I really like that. Herman, 7.46 FIP over his last 5. 5.2 over his last 20. He just hasn't been good. Oakland has some speed, has some power. They're a little interesting. Pittsburgh's a nice leverage stack. As we talked about, Snell can be inconsistent. If he has a blow-up game, if his control isn't quite there, which sometimes it isn't, Pittsburgh could get to him. So nice little leverage stack there, game theory-wise. Detroit, decent versus Dunning. KC, again, super warm temp. So a lot to like there. And if we go to the ceiling, we got Reds, Diamondbacks, Philly. We talked about Philly. I think Philly's in an interesting spot. Smiley can get shelled. 5.82 FIP over his last 5. 4.38 over his last 20. I think he's a decent pitcher, but he isn't another guy that's inconsistent. He can be decent, or guys can really get to him, and Philly has the bats to hit some balls over the fence. Angels, Shohei has just been absolutely on fire, so you have to consider him. His price is up there these days, though. It's 65K, or 6.5K. So, all right, guys, that will do it for us today. A quick rundown. Went over it all. Good luck, and we will see you tomorrow. I believe there still is a 5-game slate for tomorrow night. So I should be back on the Thursday show. Have a good one, guys. Good luck tonight. Let's win some money.